Yes. All right, it's exactly 9 a.m. on Monday, March the 24th. We're at One Government Place. My name is Tim Outhet. I'm the MLA for Bedford Basin, and I will be chairing this meeting this morning of the Public Bills Committee. So welcome to you all. I've called the meeting to order. I'm going to address some housekeeping issues first. To start, I'd like to address some housekeeping issues. I'd ask everyone in the room to turn off their phones or put it on silent, myself included. And in case of emergency, please use the Granville Street door, and we'll walk up the street and meet in Grand Parade. I'd ask everyone in attendance to remain respectful and avoid indicating approval or disapproval of what's being said, and refrain from any disorderly behavior. Anyone exhibiting disorderly behavior may be asked to leave or run for the legislature. Asked to leave. Taking pictures or videos, anyone is not permitted except any accredited media. No one else is permitted. Finally, presenters may not use any props. The agenda today is to hear from two folks, and I'll welcome them shortly. All presenters are required to provide notice prior to the legislative office, prior to the meeting, and if they want to come and speak on the bill. And that is the list that we are going to present on. And I'll go over and give some instructions to presenters. When your name is called, please come forward. State your name and how you would like the committee to address you, and the organization that you represent, if any. To allow the scheduled presenter to speak, we'll be keeping track of time. Each presenter will receive a set amount of time, in this case 15 minutes, followed by answering any questions posed by the committee members for up to 5. So what most people do is talk for 10 and then take 5 minutes of questions, but that is up to you. And because we only have 2 speakers today, all will receive 15 minutes. Any member of the committee can ask 1 question per presenter, and I will call them and recognize them, and that allows Ledge TV to turn on the microphones for them. So what I'm going to do now is ask that the members of the committee introduce themselves, their riding that they represent, and how they wish to be addressed, starting over here.
Thank you very much, Brad Johns, MLA for Sackville-Uniacke.
Leah Martin, MLA for Cole Harbour.
Good morning, Julie Van Exen, MLA King South.
Brian Wong, MLA Waverly Fall River Beaverbank.
Good morning, Derek Marburkett, MLA Sydney Member 2.
Good morning, Kendra Coombs, she, her, Cape Breton Centre, Whitney Pier.
Good morning, I'm Krista Gallagher, she, her pronouns from Halifax, Chebucto.
All right, thank you very much. Breaking news, we have a third presenter this morning, Sean Gillis. So we will hear from 3 people this morning. All right, so I'm going to ask that our first speaker come forward, and that is Karen Robb. So come on forward. I welcome you and ask how you wish to be addressed.
Karen's fine.
Karen is fine. All right, welcome, Karen. And I am going to set my timer here, so you will have up to 15 minutes, and after 10, I will let you know that you have 5 minutes left in case you want to leave time for questions. All right, so you are free to go for 15 minutes.
Thank you. I'm surprised that there isn't a land acknowledgement, so I'm going to make a little one and say, pardon me?
That could be my mistake.
I'd like to acknowledge that we stand here today in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and that we are all treaty people. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I remain concerned about Bills 1, 6, 11, 12, 21, 36, and 68. However, it is Bill 24 that has brought me here today to defend my municipal government. Its councillors, council, and mayor, and the Halifax Regional Municipal Charter, in particular Section 219, which enshrines my right to participate in the municipal planning decisions that impact me and my family and my community. So no government's perfect, and HRM is no exception, but I do genuinely appreciate that HRM works hard to actively engage residents in democratic ways. Over the last 2 years, I've contributed comments or attended in person at least a dozen different HRM public participation opportunities. Most recently, I was at a crowded transportation information session outlining the planning options for a major road that runs through my community. I was able to talk directly with professional transportation planners who answered my questions and listened to my concerns and suggestions. And I had some because I lived in other countries where things were done differently and sometimes better. Like UK diagonal intersection crossings, and the planners seemed quite interested in hearing about those. And now along comes Bill 24, which gives the Minister of Public Works the ability to override municipal transportation plans and strategies created with robust public consultation, because with this bill, the minister alone can decide whether those are consistent with government priorities. I worry what is going to happen to HRM's integrated mobility and active transportation plans and the active transit strategy. Now, Bill 24 seems to completely change how the Joint Regional Transportation Agency operates. JRTA was formed in 2022 under Bill 6. Under Bill 61. And Section 6 of that bill states the management and control of the affairs of the agency are vested in a board of directors. They were composed of professional planners and engineers. There's an accountability structure and mandatory annual reporting. Bill 24 changes the name to Link Nova Scotia, and the board of directors becomes an advisory board, no qualifications specified, and the reporting occurs at the minister's discretion. They act only under the authority of the Minister of Public Works, who, as Section 7 states, can order a municipality to build, change, reconfigure, or remove transport infrastructure. And if the municipality does not comply by the deadline, the minister can contract out that work, and the cost becomes a debt owed by the municipality to the Crown and recoverable in any court of competent jurisdiction. So by reading Bill 24 is that it allows the province to sue the municipality for unpaid work that the municipality and the residents didn't want or did not prioritize as immediately necessary. Under Bill 24, municipal taxes could help fund, for instance, bus lanes on a major road that give buses priority at intersections. It could be what the public wants, and the lanes could be working well, but the minister a new minister enters the portfolio, or the government's unspecified priorities change, or the government loses the next election, or a trucking corporation successfully lobbies the minister for wider, faster roads, and now I have to help fund bus lane removal. HRM has more resources than most, but I think that the majority of municipal taxpayers want long-term transportation decisions to be based on science, best practice, public engagement, and First Nations free, prior, and informed consent. We also expect that our provincial government works constructively with elected municipalities, which the 1998 Act respecting municipalities explains are an order of government accountable to the people. Bill 24 shows that the relationship this government has with Nova Scotia's 49 municipalities has devolved to be, in my opinion, mean-spirited. Section 7 of Chapter 23 says the minister is not required to notify the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities with respect to any ministerial action taken. You know, it's a simple courtesy, but it may also be a legal requirement under Section 519 of the Municipalities Act, which states the minister shall notify the Union of Nova Scotia Municipalities at least 1 year prior to the effective date of any legislation, regulation, or administrative action that would have the effect of increasing expenses of the municipality. So if Bill 24 isn't actually illegal in that respect, then it certainly demonstrates a contrast in attitudes. Another piece of legislation this session is Bill 68. It amends HRM's charter in order to freeze all the administrative and permitting fees charged to developers, despite the fact that those costs are rising for HRM. So I am now subsidizing developers with my tax dollars. Bill 68 is just another in a line of examples.
It's temporary access to Land Act as well as GRDS. Sorry.
I'm just looking to clarify. Sorry to interrupt.
So I'm going to allow it because there's the two bills.
Thank you.
The two issues. Sorry, I'll continue. I'll give you some extra time.
Thank you. I feel that Bill 68 is another in a long line of legislative incursions into HRM's planning and development processes. The most egregious to me are Bills 63, 225, and 329, which gives the Minister of Housing sole authority to designate special planning areas for housing and for private, for-profit, long-term care facilities in HRM. And I take issue in particular with the fact that public participation requirements under the HRM's charter don't apply to special planning areas. Decisions are made by the minister with advice from an executive panel, which he is free to ignore. Panel meetings are held in private, and records are so short and uninformative they lack any acceptable level of transparency. Once a development becomes an SPA, citizen advisory committees are disbanded. There are no public information meetings, no HRM council hearings, no council vote, and citizens have no right to appeal decisions. Minister Lohr has so far, despite reassurances to the contrary, used this extraordinary power 15 times. But he can also...
We do need to focus on today's bill, though, please.
He can do the...
Oh, we have to recognize you. Put your mic back on. Go ahead. Is it? I recognize Karen Raub. We can put her mic back on.
Thank you. I will get to it. That the special planning areas represent an undemocratic ministerial overreach that is being rationalized in the terms, in the name of affordable housing, and yet the province has placed no affordability targets on SBA developers since Halifax rents remain the highest in Canada. That hasn't changed. In combination, these SBAs with Bill 24 will have a particularly negative cumulative impact on certain HRM neighborhoods. I live in Dartmouth, which has more than 70% of the SBA housing units. That's 38,000 over the total of 53,000. There are 4 within 10 kilometers of my home, including the 2 largest ones with 8,500 housing units and one with 18,000. So 27,000 new housing units are going to be coming to my neighborhood over the next few years. And I don't have municipal water, sewer, I don't have sidewalks on my very busy road, and no access to public transit either, so virtually no hope of getting these because the SBAs will have priority. And now,
5
with
minutes.
Bill 24, that gives the province the ability to impose transportation infrastructure in Dartmouth, no doubt prioritizing roads and highway construction projects benefiting those SBA developments, all for which I have virtually no say in what is a very disruptive ground zero for the province's SBA and now Link Nova Scotia experiments. Like Bill 24, much of this session's legislation and the House reform feels like Democratic backsliding, which is by definition overhauling agencies and institutions to concentrate power in the Executive Council. Link Nova Scotia, Higher Education and Research, the Office of the Auditor General and Information Commissioner, limiting debate in the House, changing the function of the Law Amendments Committee, excluding an independent MLA from all committees, legalizing the firing of civil servants without cause, reducing access to the press to government decision makers.
Again, we are talking about Bill 24.
We
please.
are, and it's all in a package of what is happening. Right. In terms of Bill 24, I feel that the government is misusing its majority and the tariff disruption to put through an agenda of ministerial overreach without public consultation, or I will remind you, an election mandate, because you received 187,000 votes from more than 788,000 registered voters. So 24% of registered voters voted for you. I don't think that's a mandate to use a legislative sledgehammer like Bill 24 on a problem that a more surgical tool would sort. So here I am. I'm asking you to send Bill 24 back for redrafting and to release the Joint Regional Transportation Plan that was due out in late 2024, and let's get started funding the transportation infrastructure projects that we need in consultation with municipalities and Nova Scotians, starting with First Nations. I will take questions.
All right, Karen, thank you for your comments. We have 2.5 minutes for any questions. I recognize MLA Coombs. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and again, thank you. You really gave a good, comprehensive. I guess it's a thread, I would say, of what is been occurring, especially when it comes to municipalities and power and land and power with regards to the province. And so one of the questions I want to ask you, because I know it's important. I've been there. I've sat at the council seats. Why? Can you explain to the government side why it's so important that residents have the ability to come before council to discuss changes in planning strategies?
I recognize Karen Robb.
I was there with one of the more recent ones that was changed from a public process, an engagement process, to an SBA. And I actually predicted on mic that that would happen because people were pointing out very obvious problems with this development, which included flooding of the neighborhood. And they were proposing to put a berm on their side of a waterway, which would make that flooding a whole lot worse. There were major problems with the intersection there. The schools are overcrowded. There's reasons why public engagement is important because it makes a project better. But the developer was not interested in listening. And then I could predict by the attitude and the way she answered people that that was going to become an SPA. Sure enough, ding dong, next day, SPA. So.
I recognize MLA Wong, please, with half a minute.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to, I guess I'll only have to be able to comment, but you do put a lot of faith in Halifax planners, HRM, and you did mention SPAs. But there are SPAs that were approved by professional planners of HRM that were refused by councillors. And therefore, some of the SPAs that were approved were those that were approved by the professionals but turned down by the politicians. And I just wanted to make a comment on that. And it's unfortunate that you really confused Bill 24.
Order. Our time is up for the speaker. Thank you. All right, thank you, Karen Robb. And next I have on the list, and I used to seeing him in a different room. Welcome to Ben Hammer from Ecology Action Centre. I'm going to get your mic turned on, recognize you, and ask me how you would like to be addressed.
Mr. Hammer works.
Mr. Hammer, all right, Mr. Hammer, welcome. And I am going to give you 15 minutes, of which normally you speak for around 10, and then hopefully leave a few minutes for questions. You may start now.
Hi. My name is Ben Hammer, and I've been covering transportation infrastructure and policy at the Ecology Action Center since 2019. I've been tracking the planning and implementation of pedestrian and bike infrastructure across Nova Scotia since 2021, when Houston's government passed the Environmental Goals and Climate Change Reduction Act, including goals with respect to active transportation, to establish a provincial active transportation strategy to increase active transportation options by 2023, and to complete core active transportation networks that are accessible for all ages and abilities in 65% of the province's communities by 2030. Over the past 4 years, I've been checking in with municipal governments for status updates on their planned active transportation infrastructure projects and the resourcing needs that have not been met to move projects forward. The majority of our province's communities now have active transportation plans developed through years of public consultation, but lack the project management capacity and funding support to complete their core active transportation networks. The provincial active transportation strategy was supposed to support municipalities and clarify each provincial department's role in active transportation. The strategy is now 2 years late, and the latest update from last spring informs stakeholders that action items, monitoring, and evaluation components will be internal addendum documents that will not see public release. We know the consultants have submitted their final draft, but when will the province release it? There are over 400 active transportation infrastructure projects proposed in community plans across the province outside of the HRM. Each are awaiting $100,000 to $150,000 in consultation to understand user needs, design to see how those needs fit together, and engineering work to get projects shovel-ready. That's at least a $50 million design backlog just to get construction projects ready. This includes over 1,200 kilometers of new sidewalks, multi-use paths, and bike lanes around the province, which will cost about $1.4 to $4 billion to construct based on the probable range of cost per kilometer used by Halifax's Public Works Department. The province has only offered $400,000 a year for the past decade, while funding requests through this stream now exceed $2 million per year. Because design work and construction are competing against each other for the same insufficient pool of funding, municipalities are less inclined to allocate staff time to apply for funding, knowing they're unlikely to get approved. HRM is one of the few municipal governments in the province with any transportation planners on staff. Most of Nova Scotia's municipalities do not have the tax base to fund transportation planning, whether in-house or on contract. In the absence of a transportation planner, active transportation infrastructure is often delegated to MPALs, municipal physical activity leaders, a municipal position cost-shared with the province to cover recreation and public health. This provincial cost share allows communities to have one more full-time staff member than they can afford on their own. MPALs are hired for their experience in recreation management and given little to no support for the transportation planning and project management that's delegated to them. Communities are making the most of the capacity they have, but they do not have the support they need to deliver transportation infrastructure for the population growth we're seeing. Nova Scotia has an aging population and the highest rate of disabilities in Canada, but the province has provided minimal support to achieve accessibility standards in transportation by 2030. Bill 24 would allow the province to step in and build transportation infrastructure municipalities, but only after the municipality has failed on its own to deliver what the province wants within a timeline the province deems acceptable. The province has not worked with municipalities to build the project management capacity they need. The province is setting municipalities up to fail and requiring them to fail to justify stepping in. And when the province steps in to construct infrastructure, Bill 24 allows the province to write the construction costs onto municipal balance sheets. Most municipalities do not have the tax base to fund design work, even when their municipal cost share is under $20,000. How does the province expect municipalities to service debt on multi-million-dollar construction projects? The Municipal Government Act requires the province to notify the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities 1 year in advance of legislation that would decrease revenues received by municipalities or increase expenditures required of municipalities. Bill 24 has specific provisions noting that the province is not required to notify NSFM of any projects the province undertakes under Bill 24. Municipalities cannot even begin to budget for costs imposed by the province without adequate notice. Municipalities need project management support from the province to deliver needed active transportation infrastructure. But Bill 24, as introduced, requires municipalities to fail before the province steps in. We need creative funding mechanisms to deliver transportation infrastructure for our growing and aging communities, but writing unserviceable debts onto municipal balance sheet is not fiscally responsible or sustainable. Bringing the JRTA in-house under Link Nova Scotia will hopefully retain the institutional knowledge from staff that develop the regional transportation plan and hopefully provide them the job security to oversee the plan's implementation. I have trust in the JRTA team and know they have submitted their final report to the province. Why has the province not released this joint regional transportation plan? We've heard from HRM councillors that welcome coordinated regional transportation planning, but are apprehensive about voting on infrastructure projects because they cannot confirm alignment with a regional plan the province has not let them read, and Bill 24 lets the province remove municipal infrastructure on the municipality's dime. The JRTA's What We Heard reports note that the public wants to see more detail on projects in the regional transportation plan, but provides no explanation why more info can't be provided. Instead of presenting a vision for the future, the JRTA's What We Heard reports reflect a need to first convince decision makers of the societal harms resulting from car dependency in order to build the political will for investment in reliable regional transit. The lack of reliable transportation options makes having a personal vehicle necessary to access employment opportunities, but the costs of a personal vehicle make it difficult to afford housing and food. Financial and language barriers prevent newcomers from getting driver's licenses, limiting their access to employment opportunities and increasing risk of homelessness. The lack of reliable transportation leads to social isolation, negatively affecting mental health, particularly among our elders and youth. The lack of reliable transportation makes it difficult to access health care and attract needed healthcare professionals to the province. The lack of reliable transportation options cause youth to miss days of school, limits their access to vocational training and employment opportunities, and leaves our youth unprepared and unable to enter the workforce. Being dependent on a partner who drives for transportation is a risk factor for intimate partner violence, which is an epidemic in this province. The JRTA has done the outreach to identify Nova Scotians' unmet transportation needs, as well as their impacts at the individual, municipal, and societal level. Bill 24 has enabling language for Link Nova Scotia to be the regional transit service provider Nova Scotians need to address the affordability crisis, improve mental health and access to healthcare, expand access to education and employment opportunities, and reduce risk for intimate partner violence. We look forward to reliable regional transit, but every trip begins and ends with active transportation. We need safe pedestrian and bike infrastructure that connects our communities, neighborhoods, and destinations to regional transit service. Communities need more support from the province to design and build active transportation networks that complement transit. The backlog of design work to get over 400 planned active transportation projects shovel-ready is now over $50 million and will continue to grow without project management and funding support from the province. Building over 1,200 kilometers of active transportation infrastructure from existing community plans will extend the reach of regional transit service. It will be a multi-billion-dollar undertaking, but there is precedent for the feds to cover 60% of capital costs through the Active Transportation Fund. Municipalities need a predictable cost share from the province to access the 60% cost share being offered by the feds. Instead of capital funding from the province, Bill 24 allows the province to write unserviceable debts onto municipal balance sheets. Reliable transit service will have transformative benefits to Nova Scotians of all ages and abilities across the province, but municipalities need collaborative support from the province to complement transit with safe and connected active transportation. When will we see the JRTA's regional transportation strategy? We've spent $2 million in tax funding and provided years of feedback. We want to see the results. When will the province release the provincial AT strategy? Municipalities need clarity to support transit with active transportation. We need supportive regional coordination and transportation planning, but Bill 24 puts municipalities at risk of bankruptcy. Please release the province's transportation strategies so municipalities can collaborate to provide reliable transportation options for Nova Scotians. And please amend Bill 24 to provide at least a 30% cost share from the province for municipalities to access the 60% cost share being offered by the feds.
Thank you for your comments. We have just over 5 minutes, and I recognize, first of all, MLA Coombs.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Hammer, for coming in. You outlined, just as the last presenter did, quite a few concerns regarding the relationship between the municipalities and the province. And it seems to me that the theme that I'm hearing, and you can correct me, please, if I'm absolutely wrong in this, it seems that the province has decided in Bill 24 to take a hammered approach rather than doing the things that actually need to be done for municipalities, and that is properly help them fund projects to get things underway. Instead, tell municipalities that they do these types of projects, or they're not doing them in a timely manner because they're not being provided the funds by the province in the cost sharing. And then the province comes in, gives them the hammer, does the project, and then puts the debt on the municipality. If I'm first of all, am I correct in that? And second of all, what do you perceive as the true dangers of a government behaving in such a manner?
I recognize Mr. Hammer.
I think the dangers are that municipalities, even when they have resourcing, don't know how to proceed with infrastructure projects because they can't confirm alignment with what the province wants, and they know the province can bill them for undoing any infrastructure they want to build. It leaves even the most resourced municipalities unable to consider their own transportation needs. And smaller municipalities do not have the staffing or tax base to support the staffing to do the outreach and understand how to make transportation infrastructure decisions that meet local needs. Municipalities have not had a clear connection with public works to even begin to tack on paved shoulders when highways are being repaved, because municipalities don't have anyone to read the Public Works 5-year plan far enough ahead to see those opportunities, and no one at Public Works is delegated to reach out to communities. It takes a lot of work to get a hold of folks at Public Works to get them connected with municipalities, and that's work that I have been often shouldering because municipalities don't have the capacity with the dozen of staff they can afford to have, each wearing a full rack of hats with no capacity to spare.
All right, thank you for your comments. I recognize MLA Mumbercat, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, thanks for being here. My question is around the report and the delay of the report. We've asked the question a number of times in the last number of weeks and months about why there is a delay. I guess my question through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Hammer is, has the province, can you provide me any kind of timeline from your perspective in the organizations? The government told you they were going to release this, and what has been the correspondence since the delay?
I have to recognize you first. Recognize Mr. Hammer. Thanks.
Last we heard, both the Provincial Active Transportation Strategy and the JRTA's Regional Transportation Plan were due for release in November of 2024. This was a timeline that had been delayed, but we have confirmation from the consultants on both reports. They have handed off their final drafts, and we have received no word from the province or anyone as to when these reports will be formally and publicly released.
All right. Oh, anyone else wishing to speak for the first time before I allow him? All right, MLA Coombs for a second time.
Thank you. You've mentioned a few times, like municipalities, many of them don't have a lot of capacity and resources. And you also put forward, which is great, thank you, a potential amendment that we could be doing to a bill. I appreciate that. That's what this committee used to be for, which was always very helpful to us. Do you think that this bill should, if it was going to come back, if we were going to have this type of bill, should have had more of a clear distinction of really putting out what municipal responsibilities were and the provincial responsibilities and funding attachments? I just have to be recognized.
All right. We have 5 seconds left. Go ahead, Mr. Hammer.
Clarification of responsibilities was supposed to be at the provincial AT strategy with funding attached. That's not come.
That was well done for somebody who's been known for doing that myself. Just for clarification, the minister did announce in the House a couple of times that the report was received a couple of weeks ago and will be by the government and will be released shortly. So thank you. I've been in politics too long to do that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hammer. We have a third speaker, and I call to the chair Mr. Sean Gillis, please. Sean, nice to see you in a different room again, like Mr. Hammer. So please identify yourself, who you represent, if anyone, and how you wish to be addressed, and then you will have up to 15 minutes, usually about 10 to speak, and then 5 minutes for questions. Go ahead, Mr. Gillis. Recognize Mr. Gillis. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Am I mic'd?
You are ready to go.
Wonderful. Thank you. Nice to see you as well. Committee members, thank you so much. I am here representing the Licensed Professional Planners Association of Nova Scotia. And I do want to point out that what I'm going to say today has nothing to do with my day job. So that keeps the lawyers and my boss happy. And it's also just clear that this is my professional association, not my 9-to-5 job.
All right. Thank you for that. And I'm now going to turn on the timer. You have up to 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
So I am here representing the Licensed Professional Planners Association, also known as LPANS, but today I'll refer to us as the association. We represent about 250 planners across the province, and we're responsible under provincial legislation, the Professional Planners Act from 2005, to regulate the practice of professional planning and promote the value of community planning. Our association also protects the public interest by maintaining professional standards for our members, including discipline powers and an ethics code, and our members carry the designation Licensed Professional Planner. We're experts in developing sustainable, functional, and efficient communities, clearly part of this bill, clearly part of what we're trying to do. And we work on transportation projects, among other things, across Nova Scotia and in communities of every size. We share our expertise and skills with community members, leaders, and other professionals. And we work on all types of infrastructure, from trails and bike paths to complex projects like replacing the Cogswell Interchange or developing a regional transportation plan. We have licensed professional planners on the GIRTA. They're at municipalities. They're definitely involved in this work. And to promote health, well-being, and prosperity, our profession connects land use and community planning with transportation planning. So we are specialists really in that intersection and in the field of land use planning. And we definitely have some questions about Bill 24. What is the full mandate of ministerial powers under this legislation? How will that mandate influence the different types of transportation projects, such as bike paths, roads, highways, bus lanes? How will this mandate affect the work of licensed professional planners and other professionals that work in transportation? And how will this influence the interaction between land use, transportation, and community planning? So from those questions, we do have a couple of concerns. We're concerned that applying Bill 24 in isolation, without considering the role of community planning, that's not really going to work, we don't think, because land use and transportation are intimately tied. And so community planning does integrate land use, built form, parks, environmental protection, community input when developing new communities. And planners are experts on how transportation choices affect land use and community growth. So we're concerned that Bill 24 does not clearly state if transportation and community planning decisions will be made together. And the province and municipalities have made great strides in connecting transportation and community planning decisions, especially through the Joint Regional Transportation Agency. Our association strongly supports a continued collaborative, holistic approach to transportation and community planning. And we're worried that Bill 24 will limit that kind of collaboration needed to build effective transportation networks for growing communities. And finally, we help residents and elected officials understand options and trade-offs. And transportation decisions last for the long term, sometimes centuries. The road network outside our door was laid down in 1749 and 50 through war, through growth, through building things like Scotia Square. It's hardly changed. You can go back to Rome, you can see the same roads that have been there for 2 millennium. So making transportation infrastructure is not just a 4-year project, it's a 400-year project. So we have pressing transportation needs that require action, but rushing now could cause mistakes that last generations. And my final thought, because we're on camera and because you're here, I did bring a little bit of a prop. Oh my goodness! Oh well, I'll have to refer
Sorry,
to. No.
Props are not.
Can I refer to
same
something?
as at council.
Okay, so I've got a book here called How Big Things Get Done by Bent Flyberg. And he's an Oxford professor, he's Danish, and he's the world's foremost expert on developing mega projects, which he defines as over $1 billion. And that's actually numbers we're starting to talk about here in Nova Scotia. I wouldn't have thought that 10 years ago. He has a bunch of rules to develop infrastructure projects successfully. And one of them is to plan slowly and act quickly. And if you're planned slowly, you're making sure the stakeholders, the professionals, all of the people are in the room. So I think that does speak to some of our concerns about Bill 24. And the other rule that I want to point out is to make sure you have the master builders in-house. Use your experts. And so again, we don't know the full mandate of ministerial powers and how they might be used, but there's professional planners and so many other professionals that can help municipalities, can help government, can help the province with these decisions. And so we want to make sure that Bill 24 works so that everyone can collaborate and come together and get the best expertise and the best discussions going. So thank you so much for your time, and appreciate being here. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Sean. And there's lots of times for questions. I'm going to start by recognizing MLA Coombs.
Thank you. You were talking about the need for collaboration and that this bill, you said, and I share it, could limit that. How would you look at changing this bill to a more of a collaborative approach that takes in transportation and community planning and everything that needs to go in, is including something is plan slowly and act quickly. So I'm just wondering, how would you change this bill to meet that standard?
Recognize Mr. Gillis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, it's a great question. I don't have some detailed answers. I mean, drafting legislation at this level is a bit beyond my expertise. I think concentrating power with one person or a small number of people would go against that collaboration, and that's a concern we specifically pointed out. And I also think that because municipalities have the long-term obligations here, it's incredibly important that integrating land use planning would be critical, and also integrating municipal feedback and decision-making. And so my professional experience, which I'll speak to, but it's not, again, not my job that I'm here to talk about, is primarily with municipal government or working in the private sector with municipal government. And I think it's important to note that the way decisions are made at a community council or a regional council is incredibly different than how the province does it, and the structure of their governments is different. So what often happens is there's a lot more very free-flowing debate at lots of different committees in lots of different venues. And so, again, if you're directing down from the top, that can change that debate, and that can really limit what our members might feel is not even appropriate, but a possible action to talk about or a possible solution. So on the flip side, though, I would say that, provincial partnership and direction is almost always helpful. The previous speaker mentioned the backlog of projects. And again, municipal planning has been my specialty for a long time now. designing a simple sidewalk takes so many more people than you'd ever expect. And then you got to build it. And those people who are professional planners, engineers, draftspeople, construction, the skilled trades, those professions are in exceptionally high demand here. And if we flooded the municipalities with money, they simply couldn't deliver projects. We could probably flood the province with money. Staff and consultants probably just couldn't deliver the projects. So there's really dull behind-the-scenes administrative stuff that just Bill 24 at this level may not need to speak to that, but it doesn't sense that those questions are necessarily going to be resolved in regulations or further things.
Thank you for your comments. Who wishes to speak? Anybody? All right, if nobody else wishes to speak, then I'll allow a second round from MLA Coombs. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I recognize.
Thank you. And I think my only one question is, could I please get a copy of your presentation?
Recognize Mr. Gillis.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, I can give this to you shortly. And also, just to point out, we sent a letter to the minister earlier, so we would be happy to meet with the committee further, or staff, or the minister to kind of discuss these. The professions often bring a totally different perspective because we have to administer what comes out of legislation. So thank you so much for your questions and your time. It's nice to be here.
Thank you very much. I recognized MLA Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis, and thank you for sharing your perspective and your insight. I know you have a wealth of knowledge, so I really appreciate you being here and coming to share that with us today. So my experience, I've been overseas internationally and spent some time in different countries and seen that different countries can do things in many different ways. And one of the ways that I noticed, both in Germany, actually many different countries, in Slovakia, France, actually, there's a bit of a different focus around efficiency. And with all due respect, I know that we've seen unprecedented growth, which is incredible, but with that comes a bit of a transition time. And so, in terms of the blend, and I feel like I've heard you as you're speaking, and I can't help but think, we want to lean into all of that expertise. We want to collaborate with planners. We want to collaborate with council. We want to collaborate with our multiple levels of government across the province. And if there's a way that we can help support expediting that process, if there's, we run into issues around red tape, or we run into issues where, they need the support to get projects done in a more efficient way, do you see opportunities within the way that we currently do things to improve on that process?
Recognize Mr. Gillis.
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, there's wonderful examples all across the world. There's wonderful examples all across Canada, including some great stuff here in Nova Scotia. We often don't look at the good things we're doing. It may sound a little self-serving, but more municipal staff does help. One of from the book that isn't on my table, from How Big Things Get Done. I'm in the wrong room. From the book, one of the things that he points out is for a long time there's been an idea that if we move to the private sector consultants to do our work, they are by definition more efficient. In my day jobs, I've done a lot of work overseeing private sector consultants. There's wonderful, brilliant people everywhere. They bill out at triple what you pay your staff, and you have to spend a lot of time overseeing them, and you have to set up RFPs, and you have to set up a whole bunch of oversight. And then you also don't build that in-house expertise. So it's not a small thing. This is how we've done it for 30 years now across North America. But the use of consultants is a big one, and specifically to have in-house support to make decisions better. In terms of red tape, I mean, you have to be, there's a lot of balance, and this is what planners do. We try to balance things. I would say Quebec has made some strides building metro or subway projects, and they've specifically looked at how can they make sure that everyone gets back to each other timely. Because if you're building a metro and the STM, which runs the metro, contacts the sewer folks and they don't get back for 19 weeks, and they're sitting there. Every second is money. So just boom, set, you have to get back in 2.5 weeks. If you can't, you have to say why. So setting standards that are just clear and can easily be done is important. Also in Quebec, and again, this is why I say, I only bring it up as something to consider. They have changed how they've dealt with expropriations to make it a little easier. Because again, you're almost always taking land for big projects. You can see why I don't want to jump in and say yeehaw on that. But the process has been streamlined a bit, so I believe it's just, anyways, I don't want to talk about it too much because it's a very big process, but they have changed that particular approach. And finally, predictable funding is always good for everyone involved, and especially capital projects, because especially municipalities will build the reserves up for years ahead of time, and then they'll draw them down for the projects, then kind of move it back up. There's the Municipal Debt Financing Corporation that allows municipalities to borrow through the province, because kind of one consolidated chunk. I don't know if there's anything there you could do to help out. I mean, I know municipalities, from what I've talked to, appreciate that hugely, but these little things that might just tweak, 2-5% here and there would probably add up. So I'm not saying there's anything there, but there's so much out there that the province does that little tweaks might make a huge difference. So thank you.
Thank you. I recognize MLA Martin with 30 seconds.
Thank you so much for your response. I really appreciate it. And we share some alignments in the ways that we think, but I would have to say that I heed the caution around more bureaucracy or more staff, more paid staff. I'd personally rather see that investment go into the projects that are so needed, with our housing starts being up 38%, people needing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
All right, that is the end of our list of presenters, and I think it's a good time for me to ask if there's any motions to bring forward. I recognize MLA Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that presentations on Bill number 24, Temporary Access to Land and Joint Regional Transportation Agency amended, be now concluded.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any contrary, nay? All right, that has passed. Do we have another motion? I recognize MLA Johns again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And once again, I would now move that Bill number 24, Temporary Access to Land and Joint Regional Transportation Agency amended, be reported back to the House.
It has been moved. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any contrary, nay? All right, that has passed as well. Is there anything else I need to do, Mr. Hebb? All right, that is it. Move adjourned.